Our first question of the question and answer session today was, why is Greg's screen rotated sideways? And I don't have an answer to that. Um, if it was an iPhone, quite often that happens when you have the phone location locked, and if you don't unlock it, it can be sideways.
Yeah.
But he's using a MacBook, so I'm not really sure what
I
the
just never had this happen with them. I've done it
eh,
for a long time.
That's right side up.
it's the Ides of October. Things are strange. Anybody have any questions?
Yeah, I have one, Lawrence. From time to time, photos will generate memories. They'll pick out a particular day and then they scroll through, but they seem to go so fast. I mean, they're like on and off in a second. Is there any way to adjust the time on that when they show those previews or those little video cuts?
You can actually download the videos. If you click on one, you can say to download it. And when you download it, then you can play it any speed you want. Quite often it's based upon the music that's playing, and you can also click on it and change the music. Um, it's it's clever how they've done it, but it's not necessarily useful. Like I had my granddaughter lives in England. She's half British and half U.S. citizen, and it had her out in a field gathering flowers in England, and it picked a country western tune to play. And so I changed the music to something more appropriate to some girl going through a meadow in England. Um, so you can make changes to it. Um, but I don't remember exactly how you do it. I think you right click your mouse on the video and you can select different things. I don't remember exactly.
It
I've done
comes,
it lots of times, but I don't remember how I did it.
if photos just automatically generates it, and all of a sudden you'll see it, and it goes, and it's got their music. I mean,
Yes.
but they'll pick a day or something out of some
Yeah.
vacation or
Yeah.
something.
It actually does a really nice job, but
Oh, I like it. I think it's great.
you can change it. You can change the music, you can change the video, you can change the images that it's using to include in the video. It does take some playing around, and and off the top of my head, I just don't remember what those things are or how to do it. Um, I use it on both my iPhone, my iPad, and the Mac, and they have different controls depending upon what you're using. It's like today, it came up with a picture of my niece and her son 6 years ago, and the son right now is almost as tall as I am. So, uh, what kind of a surprise?
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Yeah, so this is an open question for anybody who can answer. I'm using Apple's free sports app, and I have set as a default notification sound in settings. If you don't pick a particular one for an app, I have the choo choo sound because it's unique. Well, apparently I'm still on 14.7, or I mean 17.7 on my iPad. I haven't upgraded yet to 18. And the controls, when I look at Apple's their support document for how to do whatever you're supposed to do, follow a team, for example, so that you get a notification when there's a score, for example. And it tells me that I can look at the sports app, in the app list and settings, and turn notifications on or off and choose a sound. But there isn't any such choice in 17.7. And I'm wondering if that's changed under 18.
The settings are not in the app itself. The settings are you go to system settings, and then it's got a list of the apps, and then you pick off the app within system settings, and you can do different things to it. Like, for example, I want the camera app on my iPhone to always shoot in camera RAW. It's the highest resolution that you can get. And I don't want it to ask me all the time whether I want to do that. So I just went in there and set that as the default. But you don't do that in the camera app itself. You do that in system settings, and then it has a long list of the apps. Find the app you want, click on it, and it'll tell you what you can customize and how to
Well,
do it.
I was asking whether that's different between 17.7 and 18 because what Apple's support document suggests should be there isn't on mine. It also suggested there should be a control in the app itself, which doesn't appear on mine.
Well, I don't have the sports app, I don't think. So no, I don't have that. So I don't I don't I
So
don't know.
nobody in our group but me wants to be notified when something happens in the baseball run up to the World Series or in any of the college football games or any of the NFL games or hockey's now started, NBA's starting up.
Um
So you can follow select teams, your favorite teams, and then
yeah.
it'll make a noise no matter what you're doing elsewhere, the notification noise, which supposedly you're able to choose, although I can't. So it played the default one. Although
Well, if you go into settings, um notifications, and then under notifications it's got every single app that you have on your phone, and you pick whatever that particular app can do in terms of notifications, and you can have sounds and whatnot. I'm not used to seeing it being able to pick the sound. I've never.
most of them let you do that.
Uh,
But see, it doesn't even show up. It doesn't show up in that list of apps under notifications. And I
uh,
think it should, but that's why I was wondering if it did in 18.
um, well, I'm on 18 and I don't have the sports app, so I can't. I have half of your answer, but I don't have the whole part.
Okay, thanks.
Um, the one I've been playing with most recently is Apple has for the iPhone classical app, so you can play classical music. You can play it on the music, but the classical music is limited to just classical music. And I've been having great fun playing with that, and I'm sorely disappointed that they don't have that on the iPad or the Mac because I have better speakers on those than I do on my phone. The phone, it's a phone.
Are you playing with the 16?
No, my spouse has the 16, but I don't. I played with it to the extent that I set it up for her, and I wanted to see how the camera did things. So I took about a dozen photographs of the tablecloth where I was setting it up, playing around with the um, essentially the macro features to um, look at the threads in the tablecloth. Not a terribly useful thing to do, but it was midnight, so I
I
was
think a
sure.
number of us would be interested in hearing your take on how useful that button is, the camera button thing.
The camera button, again, I played with that briefly because I was setting it up. And it took me by surprise because I had read about it, but I wasn't paying that much attention. And if you slide your finger sideways on the camera button, it will change the magnification. Now, the magnification is really set. It's a fixed magnification on the machine. But if you go from like the 5x down to the 2.5x or whatever the next one is, you can do that just by sliding it. And on that particular camera, depending upon what setting you have, it'll actually change the lens. It's transparent to you. You don't know how it's pulling off this magic, but it'll change the lens, and it's a clever way to do it because in the past, I don't like taking pictures on cameras that don't have a viewfinder. And an iPhone does not have a viewfinder. When you have to take a photograph, you have to hold it up like this. And it's really difficult to take a still picture when you're holding it away from your body. If you have a viewfinder camera, it's up close to you and you're making a triangle with your eyes and with your elbows, and it's much steadier. And I've never really liked taking pictures with an iPhone, but I've taken hundreds of thousands of pictures with an iPhone because it's with me. So the viewfinder issue um, is important with it that you don't have a viewfinder. And if you combine the fact that you don't have a viewfinder with the fact that the camera controls are on this thing that you're holding out in front of you, if you want to switch the magnification, it's just really awkward. So having it in that slide function on the camera button, the dedicated camera button, again, I only played with it around midnight when I was setting it up, but I think that could be a real win in terms of the functionality of the phone as a camera. Um, I was startled at how much I liked it. But again, it was midnight. I was sleep deprived, and it's my spouse's it's my spouse's phone. It's not mine. Um, we trade off who's upgrading their phone, and hers was the oldest one, so she got the new iPhone Pro. And the other thing about it, she has an older one. The new one, it's roughly the same size, but because the border around the screen goes right out to the edge, you see more. And you might think that won't amount to much, but I was reading a book on it, and the nice thing about an iPhone is it's roughly the size of a small paperback. And with an 16 Pro Max, it's easier to read. Um, there are more words on a page. It's easier if you're a fast reader. Readers don't read word by word, they read by shapes. And if there are more words on the page, you can read faster, and it's more comfortable. So in my 2 hours of setting it up, mostly because Verizon is a pain in the butt sometimes. I did have fun playing with using it
That's
as
what Verizon is, huh? You froze.
You can say it.
well, the good news is that because it doesn't have a SIM in it, it doesn't there's no SIM required. Um, it's fairly easy to set up. You don't have to get mad at it and take it to the Verizon store where you find out that the Verizon store in town isn't even owned by Verizon. They're a bunch of contractors who quite often don't know nearly as much about the equipment as you do. You don't have
You've
to
been
worry
gone
with
for
it.
like a minute and a half.
I'm sorry?
You've been gone for about a minute or a minute and a half.
Oh, sorry about that. Um, the
It's those contractors.
yeah, the contractors that are at the Verizon store do not work for Verizon. They work as they were hired out to a company, and quite often they don't know as much about the phone as you do. And having the eSIM that you have on the new phones and being able to make a transition from an old phone to a new phone in your own home without having to go downtown and wait for them and then wait for them to figure out how to do it and then wait for them to call around to other people to ask how to do it. That's nice, but it's still um, Verizon throws some. At one point, I had to have Kathleen's old phone, Kathleen's new phone, plus my phone because it sent a verification message to my phone because I was the one who set up the account. I kept on trying to find the verification message on her phone, couldn't find it anywhere. So I opened up my phone. There it is. Um, that's annoying, but I got it done. And I just didn't have as much time to play with the machine as I would have liked. But what I saw, I was impressed, and the camera button, I did not expect to be impressed, and I was surprised.
What does Kathleen say about that button?
Kathleen is very ill, and she really hasn't had a chance to play with it. So she's
Oh,
basically killing off political messages that are showing up, and um, she hasn't done anything really exciting with it.
Hmm.
Um, she is very much looking to the election cycle being over and messages that are sent to her possibly being ones that she wants to read.
Amen.
Um, I can't remember. Oh, it was Stephen Colbert. His first question to Kamala Harris when she was on his show was, "Why do you keep on sending me all these text messages?" Which I thought was a fantastic first question. But anyway, any other non-political questions?
Can you speak to RCS on the in 18? Is that apparently AT&T and Verizon support it? So if you turn it on, I guess you have to manually, it's not turned on by default apparently. But if you turn it on, then that means you can use iMessage to send messages to people who have Android.
You can send them anyway. The big controversy is never been sending the messages. The big controversy has been the fact that they don't look the same. On a Mac, you can have emojis, you can have memojis, you can send video. It's not limited by text length. The original SMS was 120 characters. I don't remember what it was.
128, I think.
Um, I don't think it was 128 because that's logical and it was a little bit off. But anyway, it
was
was small.
140, wasn't it?
It might be it was an odd number,
Yeah.
but a Japanese man figured out a way to put small pictures in, and that's where emoji came from. The Japanese character set, if to graduate from high school, you have to know about 10,000 characters. And the Japanese language is rather complex. And so he wanted to have things that he wanted to. The instant message in Japan was limited to hiragana and katakana, which are two character sets that have fewer characters. They're total about 40, 50 characters. And he wanted to use kanji, which has 10,000 characters, and the system simply couldn't support that. So he came up with emoji so he could have short little comments about things. And that's where Memoji came from. Him using this on an instant messaging service in Japan. And when Apple added that, a lot of people added it as well. But then Apple have Memojis, which are animated emojis where you can take a dragon, there's a dragon, for example, and you can point it at yourself and start talking, and the dragon is speaking. So it follows your mouth and all that sort of stuff. That really torqued off Google because you can't do that there. And Mac people were sending PDFs and movies and sounds, all kinds of stuff. And the original messaging protocol didn't support that. So Google kept on complaining about this. They even set up a website at one time begging Apple to let them use the same technology because, of course, it's Apple's technology. And this new agreement allows a lot of what you can do on an iPhone to work on a Android. But even then, it's severely limited. It basically works on the Pixels because the Google Pixels are more advanced than most other Android phones, and on some Samsung. But a lot of the Androids can't do that. Well, when Apple has an update to an iPhone, one of the things that Apple did when they started out with the iPhone with AT&T and Verizon, and there were three carriers, and I don't remember who they were, is that the carriers had to agree in advance that Apple could update the phones. Because normally at that point, and still today, you go into a Verizon store and you buy a Samsung or you buy a HP or whatever phone you might want to happen. The updates are controlled by the vendor. So if Verizon doesn't want to update that phone, it doesn't get updated. And you go in and say, well, there's a new operating system out there. And they say, yeah, we've got this new phone that you can buy. Apple insisted that they be able to update their own phone. And so that's one reason why there's a huge range of experience in terms of the Android world when a Mac person sends them a message. And quite often they can't see it. And this new protocol that Apple said it would adopt is only going to hit a small number of those Android users because only a small number can actually support that protocol. The protocol was developed by Google, and it's an open source one, but that doesn't mean that people have phones that are capable of using it. And a lot of that Apple has, like Memojis, you will get a video on the other end, but that sometimes is a little bit more than your average Android can. The little engine in the most Androids is a Snapdragon CPU made by Qualcomm. I don't remember. And sometimes it just can't do a lot of the things that you can do on an iPhone. And I have been trading messages with my niece forever with her Android phone. And about 3 or 4 years ago, I noticed she started sending me things that looked like they were sent from an iPhone. I asked her about it, and her children basically said, Ma, you work at Costco, just go buy an iPhone. And she did.
Well, I was mostly interested in how it affects communicating with Android people on an iPad with Wi-Fi only. Does it have any effect in that, or does it needs a cellular connection, doesn't it?
Well, this is a little bit tricky. On a Mac, when you on a Mac, on an iPhone, you can send something to someone's email address, or you can send it to their phone number. If you send it to the phone number, it can only go to a phone. In fact, even though there's a phone in an iPad, you can't send it to that iPad's phone number. That phone number is just used for their accounting purposes. It doesn't actually, it can't be independently addressed. So if you send it to the phone number, that's the only place it's going to go. So in my address book, I have it set up so that when I send it to my daughter in England, it doesn't try to go through the British phone system, which has these ridiculously long phone numbers anyway. It goes to her email address. When I send it to my son-in-law, it goes to his email address. When I send it to my niece, it goes to her email address. The only people who I send it to phones are things like doctors' offices and businesses. But otherwise, I send it to the email address because the email address, they can read it on a phone, they can read it on their desktop, they can read it on an iPad, they can read it pretty much anywhere. But if you send it to a phone number, the only way they can read it is on a phone. And it doesn't make any difference if you're on Wi-Fi or not. It's the limitation is not the Wi-Fi. The limitation is what is the address that you're using. And if the address is a phone number, you have to send it from a phone, and it's only going to be received on a phone. I shouldn't say that. If you can set up your Mac and your iPad to respond to phone numbers too. But then, even then, I think your phone has to be somewhere nearby.
Right. It's some sort of a relay deal.
Well, it's not so much relay deal as the way that iCloud works. They can share that stuff.
Yeah.
Was that a thoroughly non-satisfying technical answer?
Well, no, I think that I'm still in the same boat with the iPad, and that RCS makes no difference for it.
No.
Okay,
And it's mostly on the other end. Remember, it's not on Apple's end. It's mostly on the other end. And it depends a lot on I have a friend who's works for Noah, my prior employer. He has a Pixel phone. I have no trouble sending things to him. But his wife has an older Android phone by HTC or something, and he has trouble sending stuff to her because again, the Pixel is a much more advanced in terms of the software technology than the HTC. And that's an issue. So while Google might complain about it, Google mostly is complaining about it because everybody else blames Google because they developed Android for the problems. But it's partially limitations in Android and it's partially limitations in just whoever has that phone is selling that phone, what the carrier limitations and the structure. One of the things that you have on in the Mac world, Apple controls the chip inside, they can control the software, they control the technology. It's much, much easier to get all that stuff to work than if Google makes the phone. Well, Samsung makes the phone. Google makes the operating system. Verizon puts the limitations on it. You put all that together, and it's much messier.
I have trouble understanding why people would buy a product that they can't themselves update.
Well, you have to remember that the American consumers are extremely cost conscious. And if an iPhone costs like $600 and you can get something that has the same laundry list of things that it can do for 200, that sounds like a bargain.
Yeah, unless your phone's hijacked because it's not updated and all of your bank account information and so on disappears into somebody else's grasp. That
Well,
$200 doesn't seem like such a good deal.
the other reason why a lot of people, you have to remember that the cost of a phone is hidden. If I told you that this cost $1,000 and actually it costs more than $1,000, that really isn't the cost of the phone because most of the phones that are sold in stores come with a contract. So the phone might cost you $200, but the contract is $2,300. So they don't think that way. And I do. So if I want something that's going to do what I want and not necessarily what the vendor wants. But most people don't understand how it works, and they don't really understand the charges. Like to give you, and it's interesting. It's almost class consciousness. A lot of homeless people know a great deal more about cell phones than people who live in houses. And the reason is it's their lifeline, it's their library, it's their internet access, it's their notification system, it's everything. So a lot of homeless people, they might see that $2,300 for the cost of the contract as a bargain compared to other things that they can do. So they know a lot about cell phones and cell phone technology. But for a lot of other people, it's an impulse buy, and they haven't really researched it, and they really don't understand anything about it.
Uh,
So while we're on the subject of RCS, my situation is a little bit different than his in that my daughter and son-in-law live in Australia. My daughter has an iPhone and my son-in-law has a Android. He is an anti-Apple person. So to communicate with him, we can't use text, or at least we don't think we can use text because you have to pay for them individually and being international. And so we've been using Facebook Messenger, which I absolutely hate. So if we redirect our text messages to his email address instead, and if he does likewise, should we be able to send him texts for free?
Yes,
Okay, then.
because at that point it goes over the data plan rather than text, which
Okay.
is another reason why I send things to email addresses because it goes over the data plan.
Okay. Great. I'm going to have to talk with him.
This one Apple engineer before the iPhone added text messaging. The original iPhone, I don't know if it had text messaging or not, but anyway, um, his son ran up $1,000 phone bill one month with text messaging. And this is back when it was 10 cents per text. So think about how many text messages it takes. It might have been 15. I don't know what the count was. He gave his son an iPhone, and the iPhones at that time were just ridiculously expensive compared to everything else. And he says, I'm going to save money. And he showed people at a conference I was at, he showed people the bills. And he was having bills like 1,000, 2,000, 2,500, 2,500, 2,000, these bills that he was getting because they were charging for text messaging. And then the next month's bill was 165. 142. They all in the hundreds. So he said, I'm saving a lot of money. And the trick is send it over the data plan, because the data plan is just how much stuff, whereas the text messages are per message. It's one of the best ways in the world for a phone company to make money is charge you for text messages. It costs less for them to deliver a text message than it does for a short phone call. If I call you up and I say, hello, I'm going to be there at 5 p.m. and you say, okay, good. And we hang up. Total length of the phone call is about 5 seconds. That would cover almost a novel's worth of text messaging. Text messaging is just so fast, takes up so little space that it's essentially free for them to provide it, and yet they make a fortune off of it. So text messaging is bad news. Send it to email when you can. Okay, I'm glad I have one more question, and then we're going to get on with what I'm talking about tonight, which is Apple, their new operating systems. Any questions? Yes. Your microphone is off.
Sorry. I sent you a chat message. Is there going to be a sign-in link for the meeting?
Oh, you sent me a chat. Why don't I have that? Where is my... Oh,
It's
yes.
in the
Yeah, my problem is I lost the chat. Yes, I'm going to send you a sign-in link in the text messaging. So if you have the chat window open and the chat window is down in the navigation down at the bottom, there's a link to the sign-in form. And the
I see it.
sign-in form is nice because as an example, one of our members got divorced and she changed her name, which changed her email address and so on and so forth. And having the sign-in form allowed me to make adjustments for things like that. So if you could sign the sign-in, that would be nice, even if you're not planning on getting divorced in the next, week or two. I'm going to talk about Sequoia, and I'm not going to talk about the iPad because I don't have as easy a way to show it, but I'm going to share my screen so I can talk about certain things that you'll find out in Apple's new operating system. By the way, I'm not going to really talk about it because there's no easy way to show it. The Apple also made some changes to tvOS if you have an Apple TV. The only thing that I don't like about it is that it's harder to turn it off. It used to be you go up to the upper right-hand corner and you press a little button and you could turn it off. Now you have to go up, press the button, slide it sideways with a good chance that you miss the target to turn it off. I have taken to using Siri to turn it off. I tell Siri to turn my TV off and it turns the TV off. So that's handy. But Kathleen has now also wondered, who am I yelling at in the living room? And it's the TV, but details. But I'm not going to show that. So I'm going to show my screen, and we're going to show that one. To bypass the system private window and directly access your screen and audio. Sure. This screen here is done in Sequoia, which is a new Apple operating system. The background picture here is not from the operating system. I have a collection of space photographs and photographs that I've taken, and they rotate all the time. And this is the capsule that we launched around the moon last year, taking a picture of, among other things, Earth from one of its robot arms. But and over here on the side, that's my niece and her child 6 years ago. The child is almost as tall as I am. So some things to note about Safari, about Sequoia. The first thing I'm going to do is show you a browser window if I can find. Oh, before they do that, Apple has this thing called system status. It's developer apple.com/system-status. It tells you the status of Apple's web services. And right now the App Store is down, a whole bunch of parts of the App Store are down, and Apple Podcasts is down. The podcasts themselves are not down, but the part that allows you to register things, and part of Xcode, which is the how developers develop applications, part of that is down. And this is a website that's freely available. You don't have to be a developer. You just go to developer apple.com system status, and I'll top it into the chat window if I can find the chat window. What did I do with the chat window? I don't know where the chat window is. Oh, well. I lost the chat window. Oh, but anyway, it's developer.apple.com/systems-status. And it gives you this page. So you can go over there anytime that you have internet service and see if something really is broken. I have had a lot of people say that, oh, Google's not working and so on and so forth. And quite often it's something on your machine. I'm now going to go to my website. This is one of my websites. This is where I have publications of things that I've made. And some things to note in the new Safari is that there's a little thing up here that's really kind of hard to see. It's a little icon that's almost invisible. And if you click on that, you can do things like hide distracting items. And you think, okay, what does that do? Well, you're going along and you decide you don't like this. You just get rid of it. And you can then cancel that and put it back there. But you go to a lot of websites and you'll find that they just are all full of distractions. So I'm going to go to CNN, and CNN, you say that you want to turn off hide distracting items, and CNN headlines. That's the wrong thing. Got rid of that. That was an ad. And CNN has these things that are a lot of them are sponsored content. This is sponsored content. Really don't want to see that. I don't want the advertising there. Paid content, don't want that. You can just get rid of it so that you could have more of a reading experience of what you want to read rather than a bunch of advertising. And if you decide that's too much, you can say cancel and it all comes back. So I'll give you another example. I'm going to go back to my site, which is this way. And I go to publications, and this came up. As you notice, it changed the format entirely. I can get rid of the sidebar. This is a different format than what you're seeing on the page. I go to this page, goes back to the regular web page. I go to Computer Simplified, and this is an article I wrote a long time ago. And what Apple has done is that it's turned this into reader mode. In reader mode, it gets rid of all of the navigation and everything, so you just read the content of the page. And if you don't want that, you can go up here and click it back off, and it takes you back to the page with the navigation and all the rest of the stuff. Reader mode has been on the Mac in Safari for years and years and years, and people just haven't noticed that it's there. But In Sequoia, it's much more obvious. So you can go to this part here where it says it's got this little icon that's in the address bar, and you say show reader mode, and it takes whatever you're looking at and makes it. If you're printing it, this is also a good way to do it. Go into reader mode first, and then when you print it, when it prints it, you're not printing the advertising and all the rest of the stuff that's on the page. It's a really good feature. The other things that they've done with Safari are sometimes under um, the you don't notice them as much, but you can have different ways of setting up tabs. I personally don't like tab content. I open up new windows. You can set how autofill should work. I need to turn this off. I don't have my browser automatically spend my money, so I turn that part off. It's got its own little password icon in older versions. In the new version, there's a separate icon app that I'm going to show you in a second. You can set what search engine you want it to use. You can have different kinds of security. It's well worth looking at the options in Safari because there's a lot of good stuff there that people just don't realize is there. But the new distraction-free writing, I really take a time that goes to town when I go onto places like the New York Times or the Washington Post. Just make the advertisements go away. So I wanted to show you that, and
that works good on the phone and the iPad too.
yeah, there's one other thing I wanted to show you. This is dependent upon what you have your language translation set up. I happen to have language translation set up for German and Japanese, and you do that on the Mac in settings. I don't remember where it is, but there's a place in settings where you can say what languages you want it to support. So I set German and Japanese. And so I went to translate this page. My site, among other things, has some stuff in Japanese. So translate it into Japanese. And it translated it into Japanese. Or I wanted to translate it, go back to the original and say, I don't want that page. Let's go back here. Go back here. I want this to be in German, and it translates it into German. Now, most often you might go to a German page and want to translate it into English. I had a friend of mine who he told me about this paper they wrote, and he happens to be German, but he told me about this paper he wrote and sent me a URL, and I wasn't paying any attention to the URL and clicked on it and went to this page and it was all in German. And my German is pretty bad. So I used the translates function to turn it into English, and it's actually pretty good. Language translation, by the way, is something that a lot of people like to take credit for. When I was in Japan in 1985, I went to NTNT, Nippon Telephone and Telegraph, and they were working hard on having both translation services for telephones, but also transcription services for telephones. And the reason why they were doing this in 1985 is, again, because there are 10,000 characters in Japanese. And if they could, instead of trying to type this, and there is a way to type 10,000 characters, it's really painful. Instead of trying to type this, if you could talk to your machine and it starts transcribing it, it'd be a heck of a lot faster for them. So they were working on this in 1985, and they had done some really incredible things. But as you see, you can now do incredible things at home without really trying, just by using your browser. So if you're in the habit of looking at German and Japanese websites and you want it translated into English, you can do that. But what languages it does are based upon preferences in settings. I don't remember where that is. Language and region is where you set that. And I said, in addition, I went to English, Japanese, and German. And you can add a ridiculous number of other languages. And when I say ridiculous, I mean a ridiculous number of other languages. But in my historical research, Japanese and English are the ones that I need. So all of this is in Safari. Some of this is new, and some of it is just easier than it was before. So it's well worth checking out. And I'm going to close that. Another thing that people don't think too much attention, pay too much attention to is Tips. Tips is an application. It's on the iPad, it's on the iPhone, it's on the Mac, and a lot of people never, ever, ever bother to look at it. But Tips is nice because, among other things, it'll tell you how to do things on your machine. So you can go through and it's got videos telling you how to do various and sundry things like what's new in Sequoia. And it's right on your machine. So there's really no reason not to pay attention to it. And the new customization of your desktop, you can actually start it on your desktop. This little yellow icon is actually an icon for Tips. So if you want to figure out how to do something, I'm going to go to the beginning, see what's new in macOS. I'll use your phone for your Mac. I'm going to show you that in a bit. That's quickly lay out your work surfaces. This is something that as you move windows around now, it'll try and tile them. I don't like it. This is something you can do in Windows, the operating system, and I don't like it there either. I prefer to have my Windows my own way, but I might get used to it. But as an example, until I turned it off, if I move the browser too close to the top bar here, it fills the entire window. And for a lot of people, that's exactly what they want. But for me, I have multiple screens, so I don't really need it to fill up my entire window. But the tiling's nice. You can pick which window you want to share if you're using FaceTime, which is sometimes really useful so people don't see everything. This is talking about the getting rid of distractions on the web pages. I'm going to show you passwords in a bit. This thing with React with the perfect emoji, that's really kind of a misnomer. If you open up messages and I'm going to send a message to myself, all they've done is the emojis are here and now they're better organized. It's not really rocket science. And you still can't do what you can do on an iPhone. If you type out the word dragon, for example, on an iPhone, you'll see an emoji for a dragon. And on the Mac, you still have to click on the animals and find a dragon.
You can style text now, though, can't you, in messages?
Yes, you can also style text, which again is it's actually easier on a machine with a keyboard. I just had dragon in bold, and I'm going to unbold the other word so you can see that, and I can italicize it. There's really no way to do that trick on the iPhone because it doesn't have a keyboard. It requires something that has a keyboard. I don't know if you can do it on a iPad with a keyboard. I haven't tried that yet. It just occurred to me to try that, but now you can send styled text. What I don't know is how it looks on somebody else's phone if they haven't updated. And also, I can guarantee this is going to tick off the Android people because I don't think it'll work. Speaking of things, something that
My phone has been sending stylized text when I would type a word that it recognizes being one that would be cool to be stylized. It offers that to me and I can click on it or not.
oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh. Well, maybe I haven't tried enough with styles yet. But anyway, Tips is on your machine. It's got It comes with, among other things, there's a table of contents, and it's well worth exploring. And it's been on machines for years, but I'm surprised at how few people actually play with it. Let's go to iPhone mirroring. There's a new application sitting here in my dock, and my dock is really small because it's got a bunch of stuff in it. But I've click on it. It says that it's connecting to my iPhone 15 Pro Max, which is right here. And here's my iPhone 15 Pro Max. You can now play with your phone on your desktop. When I say play, I mean sometimes literally. Um, like this is a game where you fire balls and um, if I have sound turned on, it makes popping noise. And if you're sitting in a doctor's office and your mind is just turning to mush, this is actually quite calming. I was sitting in a doctor's office with my mind turning to mush yesterday. But I was playing with this on the iPhone. But this is an iPhone game that I'm now playing on my Mac through this iPhone mirroring. But the other thing to note is that there sometimes you want to just look something up or do something that you can't do on your iPhone on your Mac. So, for example, what is it called? Ocean Watch is something that tells me what the tides are. This is at Squim Bay entrance. And I'm a photographer, not a professional one, but a photographer. I like taking pictures of the straits when it's got a lot of water in it. If you go out there at low tide, sometimes all you see is a mile of mud flat, which is not terribly photogenic. So knowing when high tide and low tide is really handy. And Ocean Watch is a free um, um, app for your phone. Well, if I'm not on my phone, if my phone is in the bedroom or something like that, I can now look at Ocean Watch on my Mac by just selecting the icon. Now, a good question, and when I couldn't figure it out immediately, if I'm looking at something on my iPhone, how do I get out of it? And the answer is you click on this button down, you click on the bar down here, and that closes the app. I was having real trouble trying to figure out how to get out of apps and eventually figured that out. But there are lots of things that you can do on an iPhone that you can't on a Mac. And there are times that you want to coordinate something on your iPhone and on your Mac, and you can do that with mirroring. This is also good for things like demonstrations. If I want to demonstrate something, um, like how do you get rid of an app on the iPhone? Well, you hold down on it and if you hold down on it, it starts to vibrate, and then you can say remove app and get rid of it. And I really do want to delete that. That's the app for staples, and there's no staples here, so I don't care about it. It's a good way to demonstrate things, which probably doesn't mean much to most of you, but it's good for me. This is that classical application I was talking about earlier in the question and answer session. It's an Apple app, so you don't have to do anything special. Just add it to your phone and then pick out classical music that you want to listen to. It's nice to listen to rock music and all that, but every once in a while I want classical. And that's all this thing does. Another thing that a lot of people have never figured out about the phone is that if you go to the very end, you can actually get these things in alphabetical order. You look at the search bar up here, it lists your apps in alphabetical order. And a lot of people have never realized that. So it's been doing that for a while, but so you can now demonstrate things with your phone on your desktop. And you could do this before, but it was really tricky and it required that you physically connect your phone. And I have the phone in my hand with no wires. This is all done wirelessly. Okay, we're going to show you something that's really cool. And you're not going to think it's cool, but I think it's cool. Most people do a really poor job of keeping track of their passwords. Well, Apple now has a password app. And even though I did not put Sequoia on this particular machine until about 5 hours ago, it was on other machines, but it wasn't on this one. It now has a collection of 435 passwords. and 3 passkeys and 0 codes. And Wi-Fi isn't going to get to a second. There are 93 security issues and there are 20 deleted passwords. So I'm going to tell you why this is cool. The this codes are things like somebody sends you a validation code and so on and so forth. You can keep track of that stuff. Most of the validation codes disappear. They're not only good for like 5 minutes or 5 hours or something. So I'm not quite sure why you care. I'm going to start off with deleted passwords. Why would you want a collection of deleted passwords? Any volunteers?
So
So
you
you
know,
know what ones not to try again?
That's a possibility, but I'll give you one that you hadn't probably thought about. A lot of people sign up for websites, they use it for a bit, they decide it's not useful, and then they just abandon it, they walk away. But they still have an account on it. And a lot of people use the same password for everything. They use it for your bank, they use it for their gym, they use it for a free drawing, the same password for everything. An account gets hacked on a site that you haven't used in 5 years, but it uses a password that you're currently using. Now you are in really bad shape. So this deleted passwords is actually useful because if you're not using whatever that is, and I don't know what that is, go onto that site and kill off your account. If you're not using it, go ahead and delete it, but then go on to that site and kill off that account. I don't remember what this is at all. I really do have an account on X, but I deleted the app because they have an app that was developed for the iPhone that would work on the Mac, and 7 days ago they broke it. So when I launch it, it would just crash. So today I deleted X off of my computer, and it says that it's been abandoned, but it really hasn't been abandoned. I can use it in a browser. It's just their app instantly crash. So having a list of your deleted apps is really a good idea. And if you're not using these anymore, like I don't have a Samsung anymore, I should go onto that account and delete my account so that somebody can't impersonate me or try to reuse a password that I used. Uh, I haven't worked for NOAA for 6.5 years, so I should probably go and get rid. I can't really delete these accounts because I don't have access to those computers. LinkedIn, I deleted my account a long time ago, so I don't care about this. It's having a list of your deleted apps and deleted accounts is really a good idea. Security, though, is the one that you should really pay attention to. It says that these have compromised passwords. And if you look, there's just a lot of sites with compromised passwords. And this one here says it's a reused password. Google says that's a reused password because depending upon how you're using Google, you'll use it for mail, you'll use it for this, for use of that. And Google says, hey, you reuse this password. Yeah, because it's all the same account, you twits. But knowing which passwords have been compromised is a really good thing to go and check to change your password. And where did it get all of this information? The answer is almost all of this was collected from Safari in the past. You sign up for something on a phone or you log into something on your phone. iCloud shares that with your Mac. Your Mac shares stuff with iCloud. And all of this stuff Apple's been keeping track of. And it's been available, but it's really hard to use. You had to use Keychain on the Mac, which most people never figured out. So now they have this password app. It's nice. It has a nice GUI interface. It's very easy to use. And it's really, really, really cool. I'm not going to get rid of 1Password because 1Password does a couple things that this doesn't, but I am extremely impressed. One thing here that is kind of puzzling, it's got this thing called Wi-Fi. Why? Ideas?
To keep track of passwords from Wi-Fi accounts that you've dealt with?
Yes. I was curious because I saw this and I installed Sequoia on Kathleen's laptop. She has over 400 Wi-Fi passwords because I go through and clear them out every once in a while. but she hasn't. She has Wi-Fi passwords for accounts that which when she was working for the Department of Defense 14 years ago. And I'm sure that they've made drastic changes and it wouldn't work anymore, but it keeps track of those. And this is also a nice thing to have handy because if you go into, like some of these are from my church, if I don't happen to remember what the guest password is, I can go here and look it up. And others of these, I have no idea what they are. Like, I have no idea what Archer 34 is, but that's probably something I can get rid of. And the other thing that I noticed on other machines is that it has things like hotels on my laptop because the laptop got carried to a hotel once, so it gave me the hotel password. This Downrigger, I believe, is a restaurant in Port Angeles. So it keeps track of Wi-Fi passwords. But like a lot of other things, if you're not using them anymore, get rid of them. I found a password for a car rental agency in Arlington, Virginia. Really probably don't need that anytime soon. So passkeys are a little bit different. There aren't that many things that support passkeys now. What a lot of companies are trying to do is get people to use passkeys. The difference between a passkey and a password is a passkey. It's not something you can tell people what it is, and it's not something that anybody can read. So they're really, really quite secure. Um, it's basically a specialized token that's passed back and forth. They can still be compromised. Like this one here says something. Oh, there's a reused password associated with it because, again, Google kind of loses track of the fact that you can use it different ways. But passkeys are kind of cool because they recognize your machine, they recognize who you are, and they let you in. So it's um, quite nice. But there are 435 passwords that uh, iCloud collected, and I'm going to be going through and getting rid of them. Some of these are kind of funny, like 192.168.1.1. Does anyone know what that is?
Testing your home network.
Yeah, testing my home network. It kept track of that too. Nobody in the world can use that other than me, but it kept track of that and it counts it as a password. So this is a nice, among other things, it's a nice task to have on some rainy day where I'm not doing anything else is just get rid of the stuff that I don't want anymore. I'm not using um, um, LinkedIn anymore, so I can get rid of LinkedIn. I'm not using a lot of this stuff. So I'm really impressed with passwords. It's much, much easier to use than Keychain. It passwords appears now on your iPad and your iPhone and on the Mac, and through iCloud, they share information with each other. It's really well done, well worth checking out. I'm just keeping track of 1Password right now because 1Password keeps track of other things like secure notes and other things. So it'll be a while before I get rid of them. Let's see. Another thing I wanted to show you, which may seem pointless, but it's important to me. Oh, I want to let's do that again. Open up the window. As I move it to the top of the screen, oh, come on. You did this a couple seconds ago. Oh, I changed now if I double click, it'll do that. But you see how it filled the screen from top to bottom. That's one of the accessibility features that they have now. We're going to go to wallpaper. Sequoia has a staggering amount of wallpapers. These wallpapers are from previous versions of the Mac operating system. These date back to, I think this is pre-System 10. But they have a lot of different ones. But you can also choose your own. And I'm double clicking. Why aren't you moving? I don't want it the entire length of the screen. Anyway, back to wallpaper. Up here at the top, you can say that you want to have a particular list of photos. And where are you? Oh, it's down here at the bottom. These are photographs either that I have taken or are of space for the most part. This was taken out at on along. I was taken a couple miles east of here. I can't remember the name of the road off the top of my head, but once you have that, you can also set it to if you want it to fit to the screen, which means that it might chop off the edges, or you can fill the screen, in which case it'll take the center of the picture. But I like to see the entire picture, so I usually have it fit, and I can have it change. So it'll cycle through these things randomly once every 30 minutes. And the same thing with the screensaver. So I usually use the same set of photographs. And for the screensaver, I use sliding panels or a bunch of other things. Origami is kind of neat because of the photographs flow. And this is also part of security settings. So you can have it so that I'm not going to show you this, but if I move my mouse into the lower left corner, it immediately starts up the screensaver, and the only way to get past it is to type in a password. So the screensaver actually has a security function. It's not just a screensaver. And again, we'll go through it with these options. You can have it shuffle the slide order or not shuffle the slide order and just do them alphabetically, and it'll change as often as it wants to. And you also have the ability to tell it to, on the screensaver, to have it show the time, which is what I usually have it do. Start screensaver when inactive for 20 minutes, turn display off on powered after when inactive for 20 minutes, turn display off on UPS. If the power goes out and it's running off UPS, it'll turn it off in 2 minutes, and you can have it set to display the time and all kinds of things here. But a lot of people don't think of this screensaver as being a security function, but really modern displays, they're not going to suffer from burn-in. So the biggest use for them is for security. You're away from the machine, just move it to the corner, and the screensaver lights starts up. You can set what corner you want it to be at. Let's see, where is that? And you can set that in hot corners. So the position on the screen and where you want things to go and various and sundry things happening, all that way. Oh, I should go back to system settings here. Another thing that it's been here for quite a while. The pointer on the Mac, there are a lot of things you can do with it. The pointer is that little up arrow I have here. You can change the color, and I have mine changed to purple. You can also change it so that if you wiggle it, it gets larger, which is handy if you have a large screen and you can't find it anymore. You can change the default size of the pointer, lots of different changes that you can make to the pointer. You can change the intensity, a lot of different things you can do with the pointer and through the pointer controls, how fast it moves, all kinds of things you can do with pointer. So I mention this because with the new operating system, it's much easier than trying to find it in all this. It's much better organized than it was before. But if you don't remember where it's going to be located, you can just type in pointer, or you can type in mouse, which gives you essentially the same things. And it'll tell you how to get to those controls. Another thing that is a little bit different and somewhat confusing are widgets. Widgets are these things that you can stick on the desktop. And they first had these widgets on the iPhone and the iPad. Now you can have it on the Mac. But now it's actually been there for a while, but it's much more obvious now. You can have third-party widgets. So this one here is a battery widget. It tells me that my wireless keyboard, it's half charged. My mouse is about 2/3 charged. My watch is fully charged, which is hard to believe because I've been wearing it all day, and there's nothing else here that's doing anything. And this is the stock. That's Apple's stock. I don't actually look at stocks, but it's nice to have. I wanted to have something to demonstrate up here. So here's stock. If you click on it, it gives you information on stocks, Apple stocks, Google stocks, Nikkei 2025 from Microsoft. And these, you get to pick what you want there. So you don't have to, you're not stuck with something. Here's the tips, which I showed you earlier. This is from Photos. That's my niece and her son. But this other one is a new widget. And to get to widgets, you just come out here, you right click and say edit widgets, and you have a list of widgets. And batteries is Apple, calendar, clock, contacts, all Apple. Draft is Craft is a third-party blogging function. And so that's different. That's a new thing that we have. But this one here is called, I don't remember what it's called. So I'll click on it and it tells me this is called Drafts. It's a note-taking thing that you just have it here and I can have little draft notes. This is an article that I'm working on an exhibit at Tokyo Disneyland that fascinated me. They had this Tokyo, if you've been to Disneyland in Anaheim, they have this thing called the Hall of Presidents, and it takes you through a history of the United States and this rotating theater. This is an exhibit at Tokyo Disneyland when it opened in 1993 called Meet the World, and it has the history of Japan starting in prehistory and working up to the modern. And for me, an historian, what I found astounding is that when it comes to 1853, the screen gets dark and you hear explosions, and it said, and then a dark time came, and then it takes you to the present day. It skips the entire history of Japan from 1853 through about 1960, the imperialist period. And so it doesn't have the Russo-Japanese War, it doesn't have the Russo-Chinese War, it doesn't have World War II, all of that they skip. And as an historian, I found that astounding. However, most Japanese who've been raised since 1955 haven't read any of that history. It's not in the history books. They just removed Japan's imperial period. They removed 100 years out of Japanese history. And it used to fascinate the Japanese that I knew more about their history than they did. But anyway, this is a widget on the desktop. I want to write a new note, just press that and I can write a new note. And the nice thing, aside from the fact that this is useful to me, this is a third party. This is not an Apple thing. Apple opened up the API so that third parties could use it. And that's quite cool. And that's about all I was prepared to say. So I'm going to figure out how to unshare my screen and ask if there are any questions.
Are there significant changes to photos?
Yes, there are. There are some significant changes to photos. It's using a lot of, and there will probably be more in the near future when they introduce Apple Intelligence, assuming that you have a device that supports Apple Intelligence. Apple Intelligence is probably going to be limited to things that have Apple Silicon. So like the new iPhone, it will be backdated to iPhone 15, I've been told. And the new iPads and so on and so forth. But a lot of older Intel machines won't be able to use it. But the new Photos does a better job of categorizing things. I think the easiest way is to just show you. So I'll show you. photos. If you look over here on the side, oh, and I ran it up close to the top again. It's got different albums on the side. Those are albums either that I created or it decided to have, but media types. There are videos, there are selfies. A selfie is anything taken with the front camera, and I tend to take things like pictures of ceilings. I have two broken bones in my neck, and bending back to take a picture of a ceiling is hard, but setting the phone flat on my hand and taking a photo of a ceiling. This, I believe, is York. Oh, this is Manchester Cathedral. A lot of things taken with the front camera. This is the Dublin Conference Center, and it calls it a selfie if it was done with the front-facing camera. Live pictures, that's where you forgot, and it's actually taking a small movie and you didn't know that. Portraits, you use the portrait mode, long exposure mode, panoramas. So this is a sign about a mile from where I live, where I don't know if I should tell the farmer that this is misspelled or not. But just photographs that are taken with the portrait mode, time lapse, slow-mo, cinematic, bursts, screenshots, animated, raw, ProRes, which is the very high resolution photographs. But the one that's really cool is duplicate. It goes through and finds all the duplicates. I've seen a lot of utilities that do duplicates, but this one does the best because it shows you side by side what it's talking about. And down to the bottom, it shows you the size of it too. So this one here is 66.3 megabytes, and this one is 2.3 megabytes. So are these duplicates? No, they're not duplicates, but it's the same photograph. So which one will it take? If you tell it to, if you select them and you say merge two items, it comes up with a message that says, the selected items appear to be the same, but may have unique resolutions, file formats, or other slight differences. Merging will keep one version of the duplicates that combine the highest quality and relevant data and move the rest to recently deleted. So it's going to keep the 66.3 megabyte one and get rid of the 2.3. And I just press that button and it happens. It's supposed to happen. Why are you not? All right, it just took a while. Possibly because I was talking too much. And here we have two perfectly sized black screens for whatever reason, probably taking the pictures of the inside of my pocket, and I could either merge the two or I can just say delete both of them and they will go away. Yes, delete it for all participants. But anyway, the duplicates is really quite good. A lot of people use their camera for taking receipts. Well, now it knows what a receipt looks like and it catalyzes that. Or you want something that's handwritten. All of these have someplace on them, handwritten stuff. Illustrations, it can now classify it by illustrations. Recently saved, recently viewed, recently edited, recently shared, documents, imports, things that came from someplace else. I'm an historian. Historians are big on maps. So here we have a map of US state mottos, for example. Somebody put the state mottos on a map and I thought, well, that's worth doing. It's not something I'd ever waste time doing, but somebody else did it. And percent of population absolutely certain God exists. It gives percentages and shows you which ones they are and where they're located. And compares that with Europe. Again, another interesting map on something I'm interested in. They had one a couple of years ago that really intrigued me. It was maps of all the airports in the Roman Empire. And it was just a map of the Roman Empire with nothing indicated, which I thought was funny. But anyway, those were all imported. You can have it by projects, all kinds of stuff. And it's doing this automatically, and it didn't used to have this many options. So I'm really quite impressed with photos, and I'm looking forward to it after the Apple Intelligence comes out, because you can have it say, show me photos of our trip to Pacific Beach. And it uses the location data in your phone to know which ones are Pacific Beach. And it just shows you those photos of Pacific Beach, which is a heck of a lot easier than sorting through them yourself.
Mm.
At least that's how it's supposed to work. So I'm looking forward to that. Um, yes.
So I have an iOS 18 question.
Yes.
I have an iPhone 14. Should I upgrade?
If it will let you, I would, because I posted on the uh, our website the list of all the things that are fixed in the upgrades, and it's a massive, massive list. It's the largest posting I've ever had on our website, because it's got all the fixes for iOS, iPadOS, tvOS, everything, and it's a huge number of things that have been fixed. And not only would you like to have these things fixed, if your phone supports it, you should definitely upgrade. But the other reason why you should upgrade is that when Apple publishes that list of things they fixed, it tells hackers what to attack on machines that have not been updated. So not only does it tell you that you should upgrade your operating system to get these fixes, but it tells hackers, oh, for everyone who doesn't bother to upgrade, now we have these new things that we can attack. It doesn't tell them how to attack them, but it says, we fixed this, and it gives what the description of what it is. So then the bad guys say, oh, well, that gives me something to pester them at. Just to give you an idea of how busy hackers are, this is an election year, in case you hadn't noticed. My homeowners association has a website, which I run. I'm sure you're all shocked to hear that. Our website is averaging 700 attacks per hour every day. Why are they attacking a homeowners association? Our homeowners association has 139 homes. It's not even a big homeowners association, 139. Why would they attack them? They attack websites, all websites, looking for vulnerabilities so they can attack other websites. And the reason for this is most of these attacks are coming from Russia, Belarus, Iran, China, and North Korea. But they don't say they're coming from those countries. They say they're coming from someplace else. They attack these websites, they find vulnerabilities on those websites, then they use those websites, which are located in the United States, to attack other things, such as the Republican National Committee was compromised a couple months ago. And they're doing this because, among other things, they're trying to influence the elections. So that's why they attack a homeowners association. Do we have anything of value? No. We don't have users log in. You can't use it for email. You can't pay your bills. Nothing on it has any value of anything unless you're a resident here. So that's not why they want it. They want it so they can use it as a platform to attack someplace else in the United States, so that the recipient of the attack says they're being attacked by somebody in the United States. And it hides the facts that it's really from Russia, North Korea, China, Belarus, Iran. I expect after the 5th of November that it'll fall off drastically. Speaking of dates, you have to remember I'm an historian. The British election that put the Labour Party in power was on the 4th of July. And their election is on November 5th, which is Guy Fawkes Day, which was the date that some terrorists tried to overthrow Parliament in the 1600s. And I find this just gloriously funny, but I'm an historian, so, historians are weird. Any other questions?
Did you say that you had posted a link to the sign-in sheet on the chat window?
Yes, I did.
Because mine doesn't show it.
Yeah, mine
Well,
doesn't.
I signed in and I'll take a look, okay? Yeah, there are three posts in the chat window. Mine is the first one. Is there a meeting sign-in link? The next one is Lawrence's posted link. Then there is a message. The third one is from Carol Gear to everyone. And wait a minute.
I'm only seeing the one from Carol
I
here.
see what the problem was. When I posted it, I sent it
Just to me.
yes, I sent it just to her. What happened was that she asked a question, so when I sent a response, it went to her instead of everyone. So
Okay, but now there is in fact a fifth one sent to everyone. So the link is there. Anybody else can sign in now.
yeah, sorry about that. If you don't see the chat window, there's a button down at the bottom of your screen that's got two little thought bubbles right next to each other. And you click on that and it'll open the chat window. Sorry, there was a user error on my side. I just sent it to Chris.
Thank you.
So I have a quick question about something you already covered. You were showing us the duplicate finder on photos on the Mac. I
Yes.
assume that same thing exists on iPhone and or iPad.
I assume it's on the iPhone. The only place I've ever tried it was on the iPad. It shows up on the iPad too. Um, I wouldn't try it on the iPhone because it's a good way for your eyes to go bad quickly. The iPad's got a big enough screen, it's worthwhile, but I it might be on the iPhone. I did never intend to use that function on the iPhone.
Okay, so a thought how I can find it, or I mean, what do I look for on my iPad?
Um, I don't have my iPad with me, so I don't remember. I used it on the iPad, so I'm not sure where it was located.
So would you look at the options, in settings, do you
No,
think?
it's not in settings. It's on the list on the side where you have albums and such and different kinds of screenshots and so on and so forth. Where it lists all of that. One of the options down at the bottom is duplicates, and then you can go through the duplicates. I probably got
There it
rid of
is.
like I probably
I
got rid
found
of
it.
yeah, I probably got rid of 200 duplicates after I found it. I was waiting in my dentist's office for them to clean my teeth. So
So I'm paying for an app to do that. It's some kind of a clean screen thing or whatever. Anyway, now I can get rid of that because I don't need to pay for it, and it did the exact same thing. Only I think this works better.
well,
Um,
there are a whole bunch of duplicate finder things out there,
yes.
and I'm very wary of them. As a test several years ago, I used one of the duplicate finder ones to go through a database of photos that I took at when I was at NOAA. I took 14,000 photos at NOAA, which is intriguing because I was not employed as a photographer. I was the internet project manager. So taking photographs was not really part of my job. But I had all these photos and I knew that a lot of them were duplicates because somebody wanted a bunch of them for this project, and then a bunch of them for that project. So lots of them were duplicates. I made a copy of my database and I told several duplicate finders to go through and find the duplicates. And they would get rid of duplicates that were based upon size. So if it was the same size, they get rid of it. Well, just by coincidence, a lot of things really weren't the same photograph. They might have been taken 2 years apart, but they were very similar in size. It would go through sometimes, depending upon the vendor, it would also get based upon the same time, but the time was down to the minute. And if you take a burst of photographs, the burst of photographs, you can take 60 unique photographs in a minute. And it was throwing away things that I really wanted. The nice thing about Apple's is it shows you, it says these are the duplicates. And I only showed you ones that had two options, but that it's found as many as five. And it said, yeah, we found these duplicates. You want to get rid of the duplicates? And they say, yes. It bases it upon what has the highest resolution. And you looking at the photograph, you can tell, yes, these are both pictures of a horse. I want the one that's the highest resolution, and that's the one it keeps. So the way in which it finds the duplicates, the way in which you confirm that it's a duplicate, and which one it chooses to get rid of, those all match my criteria for paranoia. So
Yeah, so mine it's called Clean My Photos, and it would show you the pictures, and it would let you select or not select the ones you wanted to keep or get rid of, and then by hitting, then you just hit the button and they go away. So, but this works better because it does try to find the best one, and it merges them in and all that stuff. So yeah, I'm going to start using this one, and the reason I couldn't find it on my iPad was because that left-hand column had slid away, and all I had to do was grab it and pull it out, and there it was. So I'm a happy camper. Thank you.
yeah, this one it was called something like Clean Sweep or something like that. They had clean in the name. It took my 14,000 item photo library and reduced it down to 3,000. There were not that many duplicates. There were only about 1,000 duplicates. So it was merciless. I couldn't figure out exactly how to do it, but that's why I did it on it. I made a duplicate library just so I could have it play with it, because I'm very paranoid and not trustworthy.
So what duplicate program do you use then?
I use the new one in Apple Photos. It's built into it, but it requires that you be running the new operating system because it uses a lot of the,
Is that Sequoia?
yes. Or if you have an iPad, it's iOS 18. And again, it's probably on the, I don't know, I can look here. It's probably on the phone, but I don't know that I want to. Yes, you can look at duplicates on your phone, but I'm not going to look at a postage stamp and try and decide if it's the right postage stamp. So not going to do that.
I don't know if this is the same on iOS 18 because I'm not there yet, but finding duplicates on iOS 17, and I think even on 16, if you have altered a photograph, for example, let's say you had a paint smudge on your cheek, and there are, like you Photoshop that or any other app to get rid of the smudge and save that as a separate picture so that you now have a picture without the smudge. It'll see both of those pictures as the same.
I don't think that's true anymore because among other things, it'll change. If you do that, it'll change the resolution of the file size. And it'll probably show you, it might show you as duplicate, but it's still giving you the choice of picking one or the other.
Right. It did do that.
As an example, it's got a message on my screen. This is a photograph of my granddaughter. And what I did is I used the photo tool, which is built in now, just to get rid of the background. So it looks like she's jumping in the air, which is exactly what she was doing. But now it looks like there's no ground at all. And that was done with photos. It would not think this is a duplicate of the original photo because it's really a drastically different composition, doesn't have the background, different file size, different creation date. Apple's fairly comprehensive in what it's looking at.
Good to know.
And again, this is not the sort of thing I'd ever do on my phone. I may get bored with my phone, but no, I'm not going to do photo editing on my phone.
You said that you did find it on your phone, and I can't seem to find it on my phone.
If you go into Photos, just scroll down to the bottom, and you'll see that there is under Utilities, it says recently deleted duplicates receipts. It's got some of the same utilities. Actually, it's got all of them. You click on Utilities, it brings up whole list of utilities. But
Yeah, and I did that. And
one
it
of
has recently deleted
yeah, but
and
one of
recently
those,
saved and all that stuff, but it does not have the duplicates.
are you and you're using iOS 18?
18.0.1.
Here are the duplicates on my phone.
Huh. Interesting. I'm sure it's there. I'm missing it somewhere.
Yeah. I highly encourage people, if you have technology, it allows you to upgrade to the new operating system on your phone, on your iPad, on your Apple TV, on your Mac. Do it. It doesn't cost you anything except for time. Um, I do have some suggestions of what you should do, though. Get rid of trash in your trash can. Get rid of everything in your downloads folder. If you want to keep it, fine, but put it away. Don't leave it in your downloads folder. Get rid of things on your desktop. And the reason is that the more things you have on your desktop, it takes the Mac longer for it to go through and clean up everything. Because everything on your desktop, it has to remember where it's located. Whereas if you stick it in a folder, it's just in a folder. So the Mac doesn't have to keep track of it when it's rebuilding your operating system and rebuilding your desktop, doesn't have to keep track of all this stuff. So get rid of your junk mail, get rid of your deleted mail, get rid of your deleted messages. By the way, if you go into messages, you can actually have filters, and one of them is unknown senders. If you click on unknown senders on your messages, uh, I have begging on my hands and knees. We need money. Please verify so that they can ask for money. This group wants money. No one donated. Please, will 300 match your donation? We are stunned that you haven't donated. Ja, da, 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 da. If you go into your filters on messages and just go to unknown senders, you can probably get rid of 90% of the unknown senders, get rid of messages. On my spouse's phone, which I knew this because I was setting it up, brand new phone. She's been quite hell, hasn't been paying attention to this. I deleted 900 messages. Some of those messages had photographs of whoever's running for office. I deleted enough messages in those 900 messages to clear up 1.2 gigabytes of space on her phone. So getting rid of junk messages, getting rid of junk mail, getting rid of the trash in your mail and on the folder on your desktop, getting rid of all that stuff first will speed up your upgrade. Because there's no point in your new mail system, because there is a new mail system with Sequoia. Why do you want it to index your trash and your junk mail? It just takes more time. So clean up things first, and then you'll be happier. Any other questions?
Hey, Larry, can I talk to you about an experience I just had with my phone?
As long as you don't call me Larry.
I'm sorry, Lawrence. Okay. Well, I went to Washington, D.C., and I spent a weekend there and took a whole bunch of great pictures of a lot of memorabilia, and I was really happy about that. I flew back and landed in SeaTac, and then I went outside and I went to call my shuttle service to take me to my car. And all of a sudden, they showed up. I picked up my bags and jumped into the shuttle and got to my car, drove all the way up here to Squim. And I says, "Where's my phone?" I couldn't find my phone. And we tore the car apart, got my luggage torn apart. And my wife says, "Don't you have something that says find your phone?" I says, "Well, yeah." So I got online on my computer and I looked, and my phone was still on a bench down there in the terminal down in SeaTac. I could see it down, and there it was. And I'm watching. I said, "Oh man, that's gone forever." And then all of a sudden, I saw the phone start moving. I could track it on a map, and it went into a Quality Inn there next to the airport. I could see that it was on the right-hand side of the airport of the Quality Inn on the second floor. And so I called. It was like 2 o'clock in the morning. I called up the hotel and I says, "My phone is in your hotel someplace on the second floor." She said, "Well, a bunch of people just checked in. I really can't help you." I says, "Well, if somebody finds it, please," I gave her my number. I says, please let me know." And I had a lot of information on the phone, plus all these historic pictures I took in Washington, D.C. So I fretted about it all night long. Got up the next morning, I looked, and here it was in the Quality Inn, but it started moving again. I could see it going up Route 99, and it went all the way up to near the Boeing plant, and it went stopped at an address, and I zoomed in on the address, and it was a company that I recognized. I looked up their phone number, and I called the person down there. I says, "Somebody, do you have anybody that checked in at a Quality Inn last night and picked up the phone, or they picked up my phone, and they got it? It's in your building someplace." And she says, "Well, I don't know who that would be, but I'll check." 15 minutes later, she calls me back and says, "We have your phone." So somebody picked it up off of that bench, had been sitting in SeaTac, checked into their hotel, took it to work with them. I tracked them down using Find My. And boy, I tell you, I was going to call Apple and say thank you, thank you, thank you. So I drove all the way down to Seattle, and I picked up the phone, give the guy a nice little tip, and I drove all the way back. But if I didn't have that Find My, I would be buying a new phone. That really worked.
There are some things that everybody should do. Even if you have a desktop Mac, set it so that it can use Find My. If you have an iPad, set it so you can use Find My. If you have an iPhone, set it so you can use Find My. The new AirPods Pro, you can set it so that it uses Find My. A lot of things can use Find My. That's one thing you should do. The second thing is Apple gives you by default a free 5 GB worth of memory.
Alert from mail. Johnson.
Alert from mail. Um, the they give you 5 GB, but that 5 GB has to cover everything that you're going to store, your photos, your text messages, your email, so on and so forth. And it's not enough. Go out and buy more iCloud services so that, for example, if you lose your phone or someone takes your phone, you don't lose your photographs because they're still in iCloud. I hope my niece, different niece, I hope my niece doesn't actually hear what I'm saying, but she started taking pictures of her first child using her phone. It was an Android phone. She lost it when that child was 15, and she lost all of her photos. She had never backed them up. So she lost 15 years worth of photos. My brother left his phone on top of his car. He was going on vacation. He put the phone up there for a second while he was putting things away, left it up there, and he could see it fly off the car on the expressway as he's heading south and hit the ground and disintegrated. He lost nothing because everything was backed up to iCloud. So just you can save yourself a lot of grief if you just have enough iCloud storage to store everything. Kathleen and I, we have a combined, we went with the 2 TB plan, which it sounds like a lot, but we've got it like 2/3 full. And it's also because if it's on a family plan, our daughter in England is also on the same plan. So she goes out and takes pictures of her granddaughter. She can just upload them. We see them as soon as she uploads them. It definitely beats sending email back and forth with photographs. We don't do that. We use the cloud storage. I shouldn't say email, mail. I remember once I was applying for security clearance and they wanted photographs and so on and so forth. You don't want to know what they wanted, but it was like 3 pounds worth of photographs that I had to mail off to one of the security services. That cost a fortune. And today, if I had to go through the same process, it cost me nothing. Put it into email, send it off to them. They get it faster, they get it more securely, and there's no extra cost. So the iCloud services are a bargain, and you should check them out.
I got a notice that my iCloud account is almost full.
A lot of the notices are from spammers. They're trying to get access to your account. So a lot of those notices, you won't get them in an email. If your iCloud account is starting to be full, you'll see a message on your phone, or you'll see a message on your your computer. Apple doesn't send you a message.
Yeah, it was on my phone.
Um, but yes, if it's getting full, then use your phone or use your computer. Don't respond to any email. Um, on the phone, for example, here I click on my name at the top of email, at the top of settings, and there's a iCloud, and go in here and it says I have 2 TB. We have 24,191 items and photos, 2.7 gigabytes worth of stuff in um, Drive. You don't want to know how much an email and messages. It's really quite frightening. But anyway, that's just the stuff that I've put up there. Then my daughter and Kathleen have put up stuff there too. But it's all in one account. And because it's on their family plan, we can share it across oceans. So it's really not that expensive.
So, but then the question is, um, I think, how would you be notified if you were going right up to the edge of those 2 TB?
Um, I would probably find out from my daughter because even though I'm the computer expert, my daughter, for example, knows things about her iPhone that I have never discovered. So my daughter would probably tell me. But realistically, if you go into on your phone or you go into the Apple on your Mac, up at the top, it has iCloud as an option where your name is listed, and you click on iCloud, and it gives you a little bar telling you how much storage you've used and what's using them and all kinds of stuff. And among other things, it tells you how much space you have. So we still have plenty of space left. Um, we tend to use more space when we're upgrading a phone. And just as an FYI, if you upgrade your phone, Apple temporarily gives you enough space to upload everything on your old phone so you can pull it down on your new phone. Because internet around here tends to be sucky. With the old phone and the new phone, I set them down next to each other on my Wi-Fi, and they suck stuff across. And I left them next to each other overnight, and everything on Kathleen's old phone ended up on her new phone. We didn't go through iCloud because it would have been slower. And I'm impatient. There are our internal network in our house is much faster than the internet.
I went to my name and it said 200 gigs, and I have 109.2 gigs used.
Well, in that case, you have lots of space and you probably aren't saving photos and documents, and you really should.
I do have photos on, and I have iCloud Drive. I don't have mail on.
You should, because again, this saves all of that stuff. It'll be on two places. It'll be on your computer or your phone, and it'll be someplace else. As an example of why this is good, I have a friend who is a retired NOAA person who lives in Florida because he's from the East Coast and doesn't know any better. His house was destroyed in a recent hurricane, and his phone was on his nightstand. Well, when the house went down, there was no power, and he just left and has no idea where his phone is. He didn't lose anything on the phone because it was all in iCloud. He went into an Apple store in Boca Raton, which is on the other side of Florida, bought an iPhone, and within 15 minutes, he had his email, he had all of his phone, all of his contacts, everything on the new phone because it was in iCloud. At that point, it's not just on your device, it's also someplace else.
Good.
Lawrence, I have a question on the family plan that you're talking about. Can you post photos up there? Does everybody automatically get to see them who's in the plan, or can they be?
No, they don't. They don't.
As for different uses.
No, my photos are mine. Kathleen's photos are hers. My daughter's photos are hers. But when we share them, it just basically creates a link to whatever it is we're sharing, so it happens instantaneously. It's not like when you have to email things to people. when she shares a photo of our granddaughter, it just immediately appears and is available to us. So
But she
that's,
says share that, and you
yes,
say
she
share this with her.
explicitly
It
does
just
that.
doesn't automatically go to
No,
everybody.
no. If you think about a lot of stuff that people do, I will go to Costco and I'll take photographs of things that I see at Costco and send them to Kathleen. Say, do you want this one or do you want this one? She wanted me to go to QFC and get white sauce, and I had no idea what white sauce was. So I went and took photographs of things that were not white sauce and sent them to her, and she told me what white sauce was. Well, those are going to be on iCloud because I took them with my phone. But no, there's no reason on earth to share those with my daughter. So no, it's only stuff that I pick out. No, no receipts, none of my, almost all the stuff I do on Japanese history, my daughter has zero interest in. Um, that's not what it's for. It's for stuff that you explicitly want to pick. Like, for example, on Saturday, I was driving and I had to get someplace in a hurry and I didn't. But if I had had the time, there was an absolutely stunning sunset on Saturday, and I would have taken a photograph of that and sent it to her. But no, I didn't get it because I had someplace to be. Any other questions? I have a question for the rest of you, which is, what do you want to do next month?
Can we send you suggestions?
Yes, absolutely. Send me suggestions. That way you're not on the spot tonight. With that,
Does that usually give you some results? I mean, do you always get suggestions or usually, or?
I will tell you that about 80% of the suggestions come from one person.
Well, that's good. As long as somebody's got an imagination, I don't.
Well, there are a lot of things that people don't really understand. Like, I can do things with a word processor that most people have never tried to do. Um, so there are a lot of things that people. One of the problems that you have with teaching, and I've done lots and lots of teaching, is trying to find this sweet spot between overwhelming people and telling people things that they already know. People, when they already know something, they say, well, I don't want to know any more about that. That kind of mentally, they say, I don't want to know any more about it. But usually what they know about a subject, it tends to be very small. If I ask all of you, do you know how to use a word processor? Yes. So do you want to have a session on word processing? No, no, I know how to use a word processor. I assure you, I know more about word processors than probably all of you combined. That doesn't necessarily mean you want to know more. So the question is, what do you want? What would be of interest to you that would be worthwhile?
Well, speaking of that, next time we meet, 18.1 should be available, and there will be some of the Apple AI,
Yeah,
which would summarize parts of word processing documents, I understand, and same for messages and so forth. That would be something I would like to see.
that's not a that's actually good. That's actually good. If it comes out between now and our meeting next month, that definitely would be a good topic, because I have definite opinions about artificial intelligence, in case you hadn't noticed. Um,
Apple just found some weaknesses in the large language models. Did you read
um,
that?
no, but I've read other people have complaints about that. The and again, one of the problems that bothers me is that I see all these people thinking of ways they can use artificial intelligence, and a lot of it is harmful to a society. Like, when I call up a doctor's office to make an appointment, I do not want to talk to a virtual person. I just don't. Either you give me a calendar and let me plunk down what I want, or you have me talk to a person. But having a robot talk to me is not helpful. And if I'm having a problem with, like, if I couldn't figure out how to transfer Kathleen's old phone number to the new phone number, I can call up Verizon and talk to their virtual assistant. That virtual assistant is pretty damn stupid. It's not going to help me. And yet, if you read about what people want to do, they want to get rid of receptionists, they want to get rid of help desks, they want to get rid of greeters. The things that they want to do are harmful to our society because it gets rid of a lot of jobs, but they're also harmful to society because they don't really solve the problem that you have. And that is, you go into a store, the store says that they're super friendly and they want to be your friend, and yet you can't talk to anybody. Um, I don't know if any of you ever watch any of the late night TV shows. I watch them recorded. I don't actually watch them all the time. But the Colbert Show, the late night show, constantly is making fun of Dwayne Reed, which is a drugstore in New York City. If you've ever been to New York City and you walk into a Dwayne Reed, you'd understand why everybody makes fun of it. Everything is locked up, everything, because they're trying to cut down on shoplifting. There is nobody to ask questions. You go to the register and there's nobody at the register. I used to joke in Sears that you could spend an hour shopping in Sears and never find anybody at a register.
Mhm.
That's probably one reason why Sears doesn't have stores all over the place, because you have something you want to buy and there's nobody at the register. We don't need to get rid of human beings. We need to find jobs for human beings, and replacing people with virtual assistants and help desk with virtual assistants. That might be what they think AI is for, but A, it's not really artificial intelligence, and B, it doesn't solve the problem, which is you want to talk to a human being. Chris,
Google is like that.
pardon?
You can't talk to a human being at Google, apparently.
Google's always been that way. That's nothing new. I'm used to that. I know how to get to Google's attention, though. I've been working with them for 25 years, so I know how to get their attention. Like, for example, they had the what's the name of the road? Woodcock Road, which is outside of where we live. The bridge was out for years when we moved here. There wasn't a bridge. The bridge got washed away in a flood before we moved here. Google insisted there was a road there, and well, this torqued me off. And so I pestered them in a highly technical way for them to mark the bridge as being out so that when it routed me, it would route me around that. But that took me 2 months, but at least I did get their attention. But they've always been that way where you don't talk to a person. You have to talk to them electronically, and you have to be a little bit sneaky about it.
Mm.
And then when the bridge came back, I told them about it and they instantly updated it. So, they did learn. All right. With that, I'm going to bid you all a good night.
Yep. Good night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Night.